I can't help but smile right now because I have the conservative poet with me on the show and all the energy that you bring. And the reason why I love you so much, even more, is because you speak your mind. So if you trace our bloodline back enough, I know we're connected somehow by our DNA, physically and spiritually. Welcome on to the show, sister.
Well,
I've been thinking about
much.
this. Yes.
I'm thrilled to be with you today, Lance. Really, really excited for our conversation. Maybe you're right. Maybe in the bloodline, back to
There you go. There you go. There you go. It is what it is. And like I said, it's just so wonderful to find a kindred spirit who is not afraid to speak their mind. And knowing that everybody is not going to agree with you, but many people are. And that's a wonderful thing. You see, and we have so much to cover. I have no curfew. I'm a big boy. So you're going to tell me when you're ready to wrap it down, because that's the way we do it on this side of town. We're going to keep on going. We're going to give everybody the earful, their symbolic money's worth, which is their life force. They're taking the time to come here and watch it. And it's going to go out there. And I want people to really get to know you. And first of all, everybody, please subscribe to her channel. And you say, well, what is her channel? Well, here it is right here. Boom. The Conservative Poet. Right there. That's her channel. Go there and subscribe. Let's get that out in the air first before we move on. Yeah. Anyway, where could we start?
I really appreciate it. The subscriptions, you guys. I would really appreciate it because YouTube is not friendly to voices like mine.
well, listen. I'm an old, wily veteran in this game. And I had to take my blows. It's like an old fighter who has to go to the opponent's hometown and get booed and death threats. I still won. Losing channels, coming back. So you know what? I know all the tricks. Boom, boom, boom. So I'm going to show you everything you need to know. And I know you have a few tricks up your sleeve for me too. Yes. You have to look out for each other. You know what I mean? Because in this so-called politically correct day and age, which is not politically correct, we should be able to express ourselves, but we can't all the way. We still move forward with no fear. And that's why I appreciate you so much. Yeah. But for those who are just getting to see you and they see my enthusiasm, so they say she must be something, because I'm grinning here like an adolescent on a first date, you know? And so how did you long before YouTube, long before social media, long before all of this stuff, you were you, right?
I was me. And
that's right. So you have a personality that wasn't formed because of YouTube. You're not a YouTube talking head. You're coming with momentum from way back.
Yeah.
In the 21 years that you've been on this earth, right?
Yeah. I like it. I love it. Yes.
Well, you do look fabulous tonight.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Every time I see you in the videos, you always do. So you're doing something right. You got that inner glow. You got that energy going on and a smile.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
What did you know about yourself long before the Conservative Poet is a manifestation of who you've always been? It's packaged. We have to do this for social media. But this person who you are, when did you know that you were the Conservative Poet? Long before you came up with the name, that thing inside of you that always wanted truth, that thing inside of you how did you know? What is the beginning of you that way?
Okay, so I always had a pen and paper with me wherever I go. I wrote poetry, if you will. And I always wrote my thoughts down. And so when it came time when I decided, okay, well, I'm going to do this thing, this YouTube thing. And I want to say that it was not something that I wanted, right? It was something that the Lord put in my heart. Like he tugged at me for years. Like, I need your voice out there. Like, I need you to do this. And I just said, nope, I like being behind the scenes. And so for many years, I worked behind the scenes, working on campaigns and things like that. But because I knew that I had this skill in me, so growing up, like I said, I wrote poetry, and so I used to do open mics. So I would go on stage and spit a little bit of my poetry, and so I wasn't afraid of the mic, and I wasn't afraid of an audience, but I was still very sheltered and shy at the same time. And but I knew that, you know, I had a powerful voice that can, you know, articulate and communicate some things. And so one of the things that when I decided, okay, I wanted to do this, I was like, well, what kind of a name can I come up with? And so the two of them kind of came together because I always knew that I was conservative. I didn't even know what that word was. I just knew that I was a person who had these core beliefs about certain things, and there was no one anybody could like take that away. Like I knew what I knew what I knew. And so later on I discovered, oh, that's called being a conservative. You just like the way you like things. That's called conservative. And so when I discovered that there was an actual tribe of people that thought like the way I did, I was like, wow, you know, there's actually people out there that think the way I do. So I started to find my people. And so and the two of them just kind of came together, the conservative poet. And that's how you know, I came up with that name. And I have to tell you, I've been told by people, you know, because conservative, they believe that that's a nasty word. It's a dirty word. It's become, you know, associated with white supremacy and, you know, things like that, keeping a man down. So anything conservative, they deem is terrible. And I'm like, being conservative is wonderful. I love that. Like, what do you mean it's a terrible thing? And so somebody said, told me maybe you could think about changing the name. And for a while I thought about it. I created a whole the YouTube banner that you saw there. I had a whole thing changed up to call it the Liberty Poet. And I was like, I like the Liberty Poet, but that's not what conservative poet, because that's me.
Just have to show that again.
Yeah.
That was so perfect. That's such a nice header. I couldn't have done anything better, so I just added on to it for the information for the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you always knew. You may not have called it conservative, but you knew the things that you didn't believe in, but you know in.
Yeah.
Because, like I say, our opinions are our personal facts. So before you knew the name that was attached to your core, I don't want to say beliefs, because it's stronger than a belief. Belief is like, you know this thing in your heart. When did you connect politically? When did you realize that there were other people out there that thought like you? And how did you fit in? Because even if they think like you, there's a bit of overlap, and there's a point where there may be little 5-10% where there's not overlap, but still in the same conservative family. When did you come to that realization in your life?
Well, I'll have to say this. So one of the places that my boldness, I would have to say, started, it's something that was always within me. And I remember, you know, early on, you know, people would have different, you know, something would be happening. And I would see like, I'd be like, no, you shouldn't do that. That's wrong. That's not right. And I would speak about it. And I'd be like, and I'd stand up and they'd be like, who are you? And why are you, you know, telling us what's right and what's wrong? And so I always had that in me, and I was never afraid to stand up. It didn't matter who you were, how big you were, or how smart you thought you were. If I sensed that you were in the wrong, I would say it. And a lot of people would come up to me and say, man, wow, I'm glad you said something because I really wanted to say something, but I couldn't do it. Or I'm so glad you said something because it needed to be said. And so I've always been that person who would say it. I'd call it out, and I didn't know where that was going to take me. But in the same breath, I was just still very reserved, very quiet. And sometimes I'd speak on things and sometimes I wouldn't. And so as my journey started, and so I literally decided to look into some things. So I want to just say that I was not born in this country, right?
Okay.
I'm Haitian, born in Haiti, left Haiti when I was 6 years old, and migrated to the Turks and Caicos Islands. That's where I grew up. And so, so I have that history with me, and I don't want to go too deep into a lot of my story.
The strength.
Yes, but that's where I grew up, and I was trafficked here into the United States.
What?
And, yeah, I was, and so, but my journey is, it's a book. It really is. And it's nothing that I'm not documenting right here. But yes, I was trafficked in. And so, and with that, I was here illegally for a very long time. I was a dreamer, if you will. And so when all of that got taken care of, which took a long time for me to become right in this country. And so when all that happened, and I became a citizen, I was like, okay, because before I didn't care what was happening. I didn't have a dog in the fight. I didn't have any skin in this game. Like, I was just here, and I wasn't a participant in the democracy.
Right. Understood.
I wasn't a participant in the democracy, so I was like, whatever. But I always kept watch, right? I always was aware of like what was happening. So growing up in New Jersey, in the Newark area, Newark, New Jersey, Elizabeth, all those areas, it always stayed in my head. Like, here I was, this young lady who had no documents. I could speak the language better than the natives. I could understand everything better than the natives. And yet all of the benefits that the natives had, I wanted, but I couldn't have it because I wasn't, a part of the native. I wasn't, I was an illegal. And so, but I would watch, and I'd be like, it would get on my nerves so badly when I would watch the guys on the corner, the girls on the corner wasting away. And I'm here trying to hustle, trying to do this, I'll be like, man, why is it that this is what it's like? These people have all this opportunity, but yet nobody wants it. They don't even want it. They're wasting away on the corner, clocking, selling drugs, selling themselves. And I'm just like, dude, and here I am, like, hungry for what you've got, and you don't even want it. And so that always bothered me. And that was part of me being conservative. I didn't know that then. I didn't know it then. And so as time progressed, and we'll just cut that story short, and I'll go to where when Donald Trump became president in 2017. So a friend of mine called me up, and I want to just say real quick, throughout that time, I was not very political. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't involved in all of that. But I encountered a friend who was political during those times. And when Obama got into office, she was a big Democrat, and we went to DC. I went to both of Obama's inaugurations.
Wow.
And it was something. And so, so I've experienced that, like being in the room like that, even though I had no dogs in the fight, being in the room and experiencing that. And so when I moved to Florida, boy, am I glad, because if I stayed in New Jersey, I would have never become who and what I am now, because my voice would have never gone out the way I did because of the people that I knew in my life who were Democrats. And I would never be able to stand up and do this, right?
Understood.
And so but God's plans has a way of working things out. And so when I in 2017, you know, Trump gets in, and I was here, I moved here in 2016, and I was busy trying to figure out life and how to settle here and all of that. So I wasn't paying attention to the election. I was busy grinding, trying to readjust myself to a new place. But I kept watch, but I wasn't, you know. And so a friend of mine called me up and she says, you know, now that we have the racist in the White House, you need to figure out, you know, because by then I had gotten my papers, I was legal. And she was like, but I wasn't a citizen. And she was like, that now they're gonna ship you back. I said, oh man, maybe I should get my papers. Maybe I should become a citizen. So I did. And during that time, you know, by then I understood what being a conservative was, and I understood what the values of Republicans were and Democrats were. And so in that moment, you know, I checked off the Republican box because I knew what I was. And that very day, and my class of citizenship was the first one that Donald J. Trump did as president. So that was very exciting for me too. Wow. And that same friend, you know, we took a trip. This is where I really woke up. So we took a trip, and I remember, if you remember this, you have to remember, it was the time when Melania Trump wore this like jacket that said something about children in cages, or it was something.
Yeah.
You know which one. And we were in the hotel room, and she was so mad. She was like ready to break the TV. I mean, she was angry and just pumped and just like, why? Why are you so like, why? Like, I needed to understand. So I told myself, I need to understand why. Why are you so angry about Donald Trump? Why are you so, what's made you so angry? So I had to go down the rabbit hole. So I went down the rabbit hole of when Donald Trump came down the escalator. I watched every rally. I watched every interview. I watched the debates. I watched everything. And when I came out of that, I literally came out the conservative poet.
So just like the comic book superheroes, that was the origin. Like you always have that issue where the Hulk got hit by gamma rays, Spider-Man got bit by the radioactive spider, you know. So that's what created you. But you were already, the ingredients were all there.
They were already there. They were already there.
But thank God you ended up in Florida to get that external stimulation to bring all of those ingredients together.
Yeah.
You know, because you can have all the ingredients in the kitchen to cook a good meal, but if you don't put those ingredients together and know how to do it, the meal ain't going to happen. Right.
Nope.
So now here we are. You're created, you're formed, and what was how did you connect with YouTube? How did you connect with social media? Did you do other social media first? Did you do YouTube first? Did you kind of set it up and wait a little bit? I mean, like, did you dive in hard? How did you get to that point now? How you already equipped and know who you are. You're seeing things in the world that are kind of ticking you off, and you want to say your part too, because now it's a bigger platform, not just a one-on-one conversation at the bus stop or with somebody on the job. So now, how did you get it? What triggered you? And when did you get that aha moment to know that I'm going to get on this thing and I'm going to speak my mind, because I know I represent a whole lot of people? Tell us about that.
That was it. So in that process, like I said, the Lord started tugging away at me to put my voice out there, and I kept resisting because, one, I was shy about it. Two, I was like, okay, what are people gonna say? Like, because I mean, YouTube, everybody's on here, and I'm just like, I was resistant. And it came a point, and it was like, this is what you need to do. You can't put it off any longer. And so you need to do it. So 3 years ago, now 4 years ago, I think it was, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I jumped in, and the channel, the reason it's called The Conservative Poet is because I was actually writing spoken word, political spoken word. And I really should get back to doing that.
Please do.
It started with writing political spoken word. And I started writing about different things. And the first one that I put out was Let's Go Brandon. And that was all of the different things that we were seeing with Joe Biden and the withdrawal from Afghanistan, like all of these different things, selling us off to China and you know, not protecting our sovereignty and stuff like that. And I was like, I wrote about that. And so that was the first one out the gate. And then I wrote another piece, and I have a lot of them. And the rainbow, and again, it's called God Wants His Rainbow Back. Again, lyrics, spoken word.
I like that. I know what that means too.
And yeah, and so that's where it started. And then when I realized that, you know, the market for that just seemed very, very small. But you know what? I don't know. I've deterred away from it because I do these kinds of talks and everything. But I really sometimes I'm like, you know what? I could do that. I could still continue to produce spoken word on here. It's you know, I can. And so, but that's how it started. It started with me doing spoken word, political work. And one of the things that really triggered me and propelled me was when George Floyd happened. And I remember Dave Chappelle did a skit, and for whatever reason, I picked up the pen and I started writing like some of the things that, you know, they wanted it, they liked it, they were okay with the burning down of buildings and property and all of that. And I was like, this is wrong. This is not good for the Black community. This is not for the community. And you, Dave Chappelle, how could you really come out here like this? And so that's what really propelled me. And I was like, I need to have my voice in this conversation. I need to say stuff. And so, and that's how it started. Yeah.
Well, you know, I was thinking that at the time in America that you kind of hunkered down because paperwork wasn't done yet. And you saw people wasting away their lives and the opportunities that they so freely tossed off that you would have loved to get a grip.
Yeah.
That period too gave you the inertia at this point in your life when you first started, like, okay, I'm finally here. I can speak. I'm going to breathe all the air now.
Yeah.
You see, as opposed to people who symbolically, and they don't challenge themselves. They don't stretch their arms out. They don't go to fly. They're like a bird that just walks around on the ground. So this made you really intense. And so now, and I say, taking a rainbow back, God Wants His Rainbow Back. That one struck me. I'm sitting here thinking about that. But now that you're in it and you're in the conversation and people are beginning to listen to you, give me a few, I'm not going to say just topics, issues, because these things mean a lot to a lot of different people from different sides of the fence. What are some of your more, may I say it, controversial titles and topics and discussions that you've had? And you just give me a few of them. Let's hear some of it. And how have people challenged you? What have you gone through? Because I know in the 1 year short of a quarter century that I've been online, I've been called all kind of names, cursed out, life threatened, all kind of stuff. So you doing what you do, and you know how the world is now. Let's be real. Because you are a woman who speaks out and you're a Black woman who speaks out, that's more sauce to come at you with. That's going to tick a lot of people off. Tell us some of these titles and controversial topics that you had to deal with in the roughest of ways.
Well, I have to say, so some of the tough topics that I definitely speak about is I speak about abortion a lot. That's because I have experienced that myself. And so I'm in my redemption when it comes to that. And so therefore, that is something that I really talk about a lot, because I think a lot of us don't even understand. I mean, we at the end of the day, we know that we all actually don't. It is death and it's murder. But people sometimes don't see it that way, especially on the left. And so that's something I talk about, and I use my own story, my own experiences to hit on these things, and to let people know, like, you know, it's wrong, and you don't have to go through it. You don't have to do these things. And then of course there's precautions about these things, because again, if you make the mistake one time, but when you continue and it becomes this means of, you know, this is your birth control, it's wrong. And so I speak about that a lot, and I get pushed back on it, and I tell you, I'm not throwing any stones. I'm just trying to help you not go through this awful thing, you know. And sometimes I'm at the abortion clinics, I'm on the sidewalk at times, you know. These are the kinds of things. So that is one conversation that I have, and no matter what, I always tell you, look, I've experienced it, and that's why I'm here fighting, because that was my children that I killed, right? That was my child that I killed, and you don't want to kill your child. Like, this is exactly what it is. So abortion is one thing that I talk about.
They don't code it. I'm not going to really want to hear it, but I'm glad you say it that way, because there's things that happen after that is done, you know. And I've heard enough women and spoken to enough people that, to me, you keep doing this, you're also killing yourself. There's something in you dying each time.
Yeah.
Like a person will do it from a certain state of mind. When they keep going back and going back and going back, it's something that's haunting also, because it's a whole lot of things. Anything we talk about, just go in on it a little bit so we know your views on it. So the abortion thing is that, and man, we got so much going on in this political climate now, right now, and even a little before, building up the whole Kamala Harris thing, Joe Biden, him being, you know, too old to, it's not an age thing. I'm sorry, let me retract that. Because you see, the best CEOs over companies are in their 80s, some in their 90s. They know the passage of time. They know the trajectories. They know not to get so fearful when things go down. But Joe Biden is a crazy something. And the way they tried to push it, the way Kamala Harris became the candidate without going through the proper channels, the things that she was saying, she couldn't say anything concrete. Okay, let's open up a can of worms.
Okay.
Continue on with what you wanted to say, but I do want to get to that point and hear what you feel about that. But let's free flow. Let's free flow.
Well, I'll tell you this one too. So I am a huge advocate for securing our border, right? And so I even recently, my friend that I told you who took me to both of Obama's inaugurations, she recently texted me, I forget something, when Trump got in. Oh, I know. She had texted me day of inauguration to boycott, you know, don't watch it or something like that. And so it was time for me to come out of the closet, so to speak. And so, because we've never had those conversations, I've just kept myself separate from all of that. And so, and I says to her, well, honey, you talking to the wrong person, because for the last 4 years, all I've done is worked hard for this moment. There's no way I'm missing it. I wasn't in DC for it, but there's no way I'm missing this. And so that was me kind of coming out of the closet about that with her. But of course, she goes to the immigration thing because she knows my story.
Right.
And she says, well, how could you be for this when, you know, you yourself was an illegal? And I says, this is exactly why
Right.
I'm on this side, is because of the experiences that I had living like that, you know, always you know, afraid and all. It was just it was really, really bad for me. And so I don't want anybody to go through that. So
Right.
and again, you know, people have gotten here, but not everybody can come, not everybody can be here. So yeah, I believe in the sovereignty of this country. I believe that, you know, people can come, obviously, of course. I'm an immigrant, of course, but I
Mm-hmm.
believe in following the rule of law. I believe in this country in the way it is, that you can't have open borders. Not everybody can walk into this country. And
Right.
so, you know, and that's where I stand on that. So people don't understand that now. I mean, everybody knows, because I'm not secretive about anything. It's a part of who I am, and this is why
Right.
I stand on these soapboxes, is because of my own experiences. And so yes, I came into the country as a dreamer. I was trafficked into this country. It wasn't by choice, but you know, I had to make the best of it. But once
Yes.
I became an American citizen, you can't find a more dedicated patriot than I. And even my website is called Orlando Patriot, because um, that's just who I am. And so, and I fight for this country, and I fight for our community, and that's on the ground, and that's online, and that's just the place that God has placed me in. And I know that He's putting me in different arenas, different rooms, because of these things. And so I had to go through all these kinds of different experiences. So when I
Yes.
get on the mic, you know, I'm not throwing stones at anybody. I'm talking to you about what I've experienced and why I feel like, yes, the border needs to be closed up. Why I think, you know, abortion is murder. Why I think X, Y, and Z, and everything else that I talk about. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So, with the borders being open like it was, what, who would do that? I mean, when you go home, most of us, we go home.
Mm-hmm.
We lock the door behind us.
Yeah.
When we leave our home, we don't leave the door swinging wide open.
Mm-mm.
Anybody can go in there.
Yeah.
Anybody can plant something in there. Anybody can do something to the food in your refrigerator. So why would you leave this open this way? And even when campaigning for the presidency of the United States, Kamala Harris was saying, I will close up the borders, but they're open now.
Mm-hmm.
Do something about it now. I mean, there's so many different things from that standpoint.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things going on. When they say now, they say, well, you're going to break up families if you deport. But my feeling is that if you came the right way, you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand there's going to be a lot of tears, but you got to draw the line somewhere. Where are the other things where you draw the line? Because somebody has to make the decision to draw the line on these different topics. And there's always going to be somebody on one side, to the left, next to the right. But you're going to have to, it's not going to make everybody happy.
No.
What have you found to be the most challenging when you speak, when you share your opinions and your perspectives, the most challenging where people just can't understand and come out of themselves to understand where you're coming from?
Yeah, well, they can never understand. Here I am, you know, female, Black woman with these kinds of views. And an immigrant as at that. So
Mhm.
I am the person that they are really, really afraid of, because one, yeah, you can't say, you know, you can't try to okey doke me with history, because guess what? I had to learn American history, not because I wasn't taught it in school, but because I wanted to understand. Like when I did that Donald Trump dive to understand why they hated him, that took me back in history as well. That took me back to looking at the history of this country and how the parties were formed and who did what to who and who really kept people down. Like I
Right.
I understand that. And so when you come at me and I start to give you factual things about what happened in our history, they don't like that because I'm an informed person, and I'm not afraid to tell you that. But when people are looking at these things, they want to, they don't want to talk about facts. When we talk about Joe Biden and what he's done to the Black people in the Black community, even as of having these open borders, that really affects those communities that I was in New Jersey, those communities, in Florida too. So it's Black and brown communities, as they like to call it. These are the communities that's really being invaded. And so they want to put Blacks and say, we're for you, but actuality, you're not, because every time somebody walks across the border, you're literally taking away from Americans, right? Every time. That's what's happened. And Kamala Harris saying she's going to fix the borders day one. You should have been doing that. You've been in office, you the VP.
I know.
You've been in office for 4 years. You should have been handled that, right? So those are some of the things. And people just don't seem to understand why you're on the side. Oh, you don't want immigrants coming here. Of course I want immigrants coming here. I know we have a community of people who don't want to do certain works. We welcome the community of immigrants to do the work. I like oranges. I welcome the community to come and help out. But you got to be here legally to do that. You can't just walk across the border and do these things. And especially when we're looking at open borders with, all of the crime and everything, all of that's happening in the Black communities. And they're not happening with these people who lives behind their gates. Nancy Pelosi locks up her property every night. They got cameras, they got security to protect them. You ain't got none. They can walk into your house whenever, but they're not going to go into her house. Right?
That's right. Like I always say, depending on where you live and how you live, I used to work in prisons and jails, right? And I used to speak to a lot of those who had their profession. And I learned a lot. In most homes, I asked many of these guys, aside from the people who lived in gated communities with the security and the security guard, and they had their little protection on the inside, how long does it take to get into your home? I mean, this is off topic, but I'm bringing it back around. How long does it take to get in the average person's home? When you have studied it, you know it. Say, man, I can get in there under a minute and have a blade to their throat in the bed.
Wow.
And when I really thought about it, I was like, you know what? For most people, that's true. By the time you hear, even if they came in crude and broke the glass and you're sleeping and you're like, what is that? And they know where they're going, they got you, especially if they have a gun. So in the streets, in the communities, with a lot of these jails being prisons being emptied out in other countries and them coming here, but yet and still they had this hate with all of these obvious signs of, even signs, neglect, job neglect. If they were on, Biden and Kamala Harris were on a job, they would have been fired because your sign of the dotted line was expected of you, and have done none of that. So the question I have for you, you brought it up just a second ago. Give it to us briefly, or take your time. I'm in no rush. Like I said, you're going to end the show, not me, right?
Okay.
Why do people hate Donald Trump so much? Why is he this racist? I want you to explain. I want to hear it from you.
Oh my God. Why do they hate
Trump? Get comments on this video after it goes up as a video, because you're going to get some flack and you're going to get some applause.
Yeah. So why do they hate Donald Trump? I just don't understand it. And part of that for me is when I was with my friend and she was acting that way because, we're from Jersey. And so we've been to Trump's casino in Atlantic City. Everybody loved Trump. And, he put so many people to work and all kinds of, and he was loved by everyone. And part of my frustration when I was, with that was like, I says, what is it that he's done wrong? Like, I could never understand exactly what he did wrong when when he ran for office, he wasn't saying anything new that he hadn't been saying for years. I mean, he told those to the liberals. He told that to Oprah. He told them to the cackling hens. He talked to them. He told them, what he saw was America's problems. And so the problem I see is that Donald Trump, because he is not really associated with these swamp people, he wants to make America better. He's always talked about, how we're being ripped off by other people, other countries, and so on. He's never been quiet about that. And so when he decided to run, they thought he was a joke. But why would you take him as a joke? He was the guy that everybody wanted to be around. He was the guy who everybody was watching on television. He was the guy that all the rappers and all the musicians hung around with, right? He was the guy. Trump was the man. And because he decided to run for office, all of a sudden, all of those things changed.
Yeah.
None of those things changed. He's the same guy that he was always, and so they paint him as this racist, and it's not true. In my opinion, I don't believe any of that is true. I've never met Donald Trump. I haven't met him yet, I should say. But it's on my to-do list to meet Donald Trump for sure.
He's going to be on this show. Let's drum that one up.
But
let me just give a little verbal commercial here to say you must go on YouTube to the Conservative Poet and subscribe to her channel. Yeah. Make sure to do that because she has chock full of shows and videos and opinion pieces that will have you thinking. And she might alter the way you think if you've been a victim of the Western media's propaganda, right? So make sure to go over there. You can open up another screen right now and go there and subscribe. I want it where when she goes back to a channel, there's a spike in new subscribers that continues to go on. Go ahead, sister.
That would be great. That would be so good. But yeah, so the people hating Trump is just something I can't understand, because when you look at it, and his whole thing, I want America to be better. I want to put America first. I want to put Americans first. What is wrong with that? Isn't that what a leader would want for their own people? Like, he wants to make your life better. And what really bothers me with people is that Donald Trump tells you the truth, right? He just tells it to you. And so I remember when he was running in 2015 and 16, when, again, I went back and I watched all the rallies and everything else. Mm-hmm. And so when he was addressing Black folks, and he says to them, you've been living in this situation forever. These Democrats run your city. They do this. And where are you at? What the hell do you have to lose for voting for Trump? What are you going to lose? Right. And, again, they want to paint him as this racist. If America is doing well, then you know what? The Black people are doing well. The people at the bottom are doing well. The people in the middle are doing well. The people at the top are doing well. Everybody's doing well. But they want to separate everybody, right? They want to always divide. Oh, the rich is getting richer for Trump. But guess what? The lower classes are being pulled up as well. If the rich is doing well, then guess what? The bottom is going to do well because they're going to provide jobs. They're going to be able to provide you with opportunities. Yes. And again, that's going to do well for Black people. And that's what happened in a Trump administration. And that's what I believe is going to happen now. Yes, right now we're still in the transition because, yes, eggs is still very high. And I get that. But we're going to move forward from that. And we know what it's like under a Donald Trump. We know what it's like under his leadership. And what he does, again, he is making deals to make this country better. We're not focused on other people, other countries. We're trying to focus on America and what's going to make America better. And if somebody has a problem with that, then they hate America, in my point of view.
There you go.
So. Yes.
Irrefutable logic.
Yeah. Common
Irrefutable
sense.
logic. I'm a
Common sense.
logic guy. I like to go through and make the point thoroughly. So you're going with surgical precision, and I like that. Okay, it hasn't even been a month yet. This man Donald Trump did more in less than a month than Biden and Kamala Harris did in 4 years.
Yeah.
He jumped right on it. I don't think he had even 6 hours of sleep since becoming president. And he was shot at going into this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, how do you feel about that? Do you feel that it was some type of deep state situation? Not to get hocus pocus on you, but we know there are entities, there are factions behind the scenes that try to pull strings. And I feel that Donald Trump is not part of that. Some people say that he is. But if he was part of that, why would they try to snuff him? And it's shadowy to me. I couldn't really tell you, because we have these words I won't even say here to even reduce this particular exchange between you and I. You know, when they call it this, they call it that, like when you're in the music industry and somebody dies, or that's a sacrifice, you know who it is. No, let's not say that, but we do know that there are hidden corporate interests, factions, evil entities out there that want control and want to control. They can't seem to control him, because I remember the first time he got elected, they were saying, well, you know, he doesn't even need that salary he's getting. He's got his money already. So it can't be a money hungry thing. What do you think this shadow government, do you subscribe to that? Maybe not in whole, but in part, or maybe in a fraction. What do you think that the public is not seeing that's there, that's an influence, that has an interest? What do you think about that?
Well, here's what I think. I believe that Donald Trump, at this point, if you remember, one of the things that he ran on in 2015-16 was that he was going to drain the swamp. And that literally means taking money out of these people's pockets. He couldn't get it done in 26 when he got in back in 16. He couldn't get it done then because he was walking into an arena that he didn't really know, right? He didn't really know how far the tentacles went of the swamp creatures. He didn't really know like what he was really getting into. I'm sure he knew it was bad, but he didn't know how deep it went. And he didn't know that it really went as deep as it does on the Democrat side. It goes probably just as deep, if not deeper, on his own side of the aisle, right? And we see it all the time with these. So Mitch McConnell, perfect example of right now. Look at this. These last confirmations, McConnell is the only one who hasn't been voting, but he didn't vote. But my point is that there's so many people that Trump has literally scuffed, right, in this, because again, he is putting eyes on the corruption. He's putting eyes on the money, and they knew that this would come. So back then, the last administration, Trump didn't know how all of this was gonna go, but he knew. But he couldn't drain the swamp then. He couldn't really do it. He didn't have the systems in place. He didn't have the people in place because he didn't know how bad this thing really was. But we never forgot that he said, I want to drain the swamp. We never forgot that. And now with Doge being in place, they didn't want for these things to happen. But as we are seeing, Doge is literally putting the light on what's been happening in Washington, D.C., and with all of these elected officials who are getting rich, wealthy off the
Yes.
backs of the taxpayer. And so they knew that Trump was going to come in and expose these things because they kept him so busy with so many impeachment after impeachment, the Russia hoax, and all of these things kept him. He couldn't really, even though Trump got so much done in the 4 years then, but there was so much more he could have done. But he was just, it was just fighting everybody. But this time he was prepared, ready. He knew what he wanted to execute. He knew. And that's why day one, the plan was already in. Things started happening day one. We're what, 20, 25 days since, 30 days, whatever. It's been less than a month. Look at everything that's happened. And the exposure of Doge putting the cameras on these people. It's like roaches scattering. What's happening? It's Elon Musk with the light, friend. It's Donald Trump with the light, friend. That's what's happening, right? And so they knew this was coming. And so that's why they hate Trump, and especially in this particular season. But the people have spoken. We, the people, have spoken. And no matter what they try to do, we have spoken, and Donald Trump's numbers have never been better.
Yeah. The proof is in the pudding. 4 years. When I say 4 years of this, I'm not saying the same way when I said the prior 4 years. So 4 years of this, could you imagine how much change is going to happen? But there are many people who feel, and again, everybody's not going to be happy.
No.
Many people feel that he's heavy-handed. I got to bring up the other sides too, and just different types of opinions.
Yeah.
I know people who, no matter how much good he's doing now, they're going to disagree with him because they're mad that he got elected. They're bringing up misconceptions and false things that they know are false. All because, so why would, I mean, I'm talking about Black people now and some of others. But there's so many Black people who are so loyal to the Democratic Party. They can do no wrong. It's like that drunk, abusive uncle that you love so much, but no matter how bad he is, you'll excuse him.
Yep.
And so you were speaking earlier about the roots and the history of the Democratic Party. Could you school a few of us on that? Those who are staunch supporters, blindly, like you're just supposed to automatically not challenge them and just, oh, Democrat, we always been Democrat, we're going to be Democrat. And what do you say to them? What do you school them on and let them know how off they are? Maybe they think a little different if they knew the history.
Well, some of the things that has been in our history, I mean, they put it down as if, you know, Democrats have been good for Black people. Democrats have been, you know, wonderful. They are the party of the lower people. They're the party for you Blacks. That's who they are. But in actuality, they were not. They have not. And so when we look at, if we go back to slavery and all of that, and Jim Crow and those things, Democrats wanted these things to stay in place. They did not want us to be free. They did not want us to you know, have the things that we have. And after slavery, Black people were thriving, and most Blacks were Republican, not Democrat. And a lot of people tend to want to forget that. And they tell us, oh, well, the parties switched. The parties never switched. It was always Republicans who advocated for Black. Lincoln freed the slaves, if we remember. And Lincoln was a Republican. And so people tend to forget these things. And so where they tie in, you know, the Democrats are good for Black people, and it's not. And when we talk about after slavery, Blacks were thriving, businesses.
Yes.
Man, we had Blacks in office, right? In the early 1900s there, even in the 1800s, like afterwards, in the 1870s and up, we had Blacks. There was a Speaker of the House. There were congressmen. There were people who were in. And then when the days come now, you know, people just, they forget that. It
Yes.
wasn't Democrats. Those people were Republicans, blacks. A lot of them came out of Florida too, in the South. But again, they paint the South as, because again, it was Democrats, our friends, the KKK. That's who is the Democrats, our friends, the KKK. Not saying that, you know, other people,
Yeah.
but that's really where the core of it was. And I'll say this part to this. When LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, decided that he was going to literally go into the family of the black family and pull the men out of the house, right? And left the women and children. And that was part of the detriment of black people, was that, you know, Lyndon B put these systems in place, welfare, food stamps, all this stuff, housing, all of these things that literally took the man out of the house. And you couldn't have the man in the house because they say you can't have him. So that's how we ended up with the broken home, broken family, broken homes, because now the women were like, okay, well, I can't have you here because the government ain't gonna pay the rent. So you're gonna have to go. They ain't gonna pay for this. And so that essentially put the man out of the house. And now essentially the women went to the government, because now we started this whole baby daddy drama, you know, and that's how the black family was broken down. And it wasn't the Republicans that did that. Democrats did that. And we continue to see the devastation of single family homes because of this. And they told us that we're going to keep y'all voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And it's been nearly that. And they were right. Look at us. Look at the detriment that has happened to the black people.
You know, I'd like to know how you think about this. When the feminist movement came, like right after that, was that part of the 1-2 punch that kept a lot of black women? At first, it was keeping the man out. Now it seemed as though they were turned against the black man. Even though this was an overall thing, I feel, and I want to hear your opinion on this, that the feminist movement brought in black women and made them feel as though, yeah, we're fighting for the same thing. But the black woman didn't have her man. And usually the white woman did. You see? So it drove a nail further into the coffin of splitting the family up, because now we're moving up from the 70s into the 80s, and then we have the cable TV and then rap music and culture and black culture, which is bigger than rap music. It turned all women into playthings. They felt as though there was some value in offering themselves to the world, and that was all they had to offer. So this is just one continuous flow in different areas that we never came out on top to recuperate from all of that. And so now we have this foolishness going on now, where a lot of our men don't want to be men. To me, this was orchestrated and planned and orchestrated all this time to bring us to this point where if any one of our leaders from the past came back, they'd look and say, what the heck happened? If Malcolm X came back now, what the heck would he say? With our men. And there are males with functional parts, but many of them are not men.
No.
And sister, if you were to say that, you'd catch a lot of flack. But I'm saying it, and I've always been saying it, because I remember a time when we had strong men in our communities. Now it's like the thread has been pulled out from the suit, and all the different parts of the suit that cover us up is falling apart, and now we are naked.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that whole transition to what we are now? Not you or me, but many in our community.
Well, I have to say this. You're absolutely right that something has happened to our men, and men are no longer, you know, protecting the women. Like, this is part of their duty, part of their job, the patriarch, if you will.
Yes.
To be the provider for the home. Like we said, was his name, Lyndon B. Johnson, when he took the men out of the house, and we'll go back to what that did to women, because now women became, you know, moms and dads in the home. And so, and they kind of pushed them to the forefront of saying, well, you know, woman power and so on. And so, you're right. They kind of played on that to say, well, now you're raising your children on your own. You don't need the man. You don't need a husband. You don't need a patriarch, because you can do it all by yourself. And so that is part of what happened to the Black woman, because she thinks she can do it all by herself. And therefore she built this attitude around her, these walls, and it's just not, and it's not the case. And so when you find the ones who are educated, who are able to, they double down even more. I don't need a man. I don't want a man. I can do this all by myself. But then you find the lower class of women, you know, they're still in that same place. I can do it by myself, but they got the government to take care of them. The government will pay the rent. The government will pay and feed the babies, but they will crawl under that man to get what they need, right? They will crawl under him to get what they want, right? You know, that old vitamin D. They'll get that vitamin D. They will move on, right? And then they toss him to the side, like, I don't need you anymore. I don't want you anymore. You can't sleep. You can't be here. And so they don't marry anymore. And so that's brokenness. And the Black woman is literally degraded herself when it comes to these things. And, you know, and so the men, like you said, if he can't do his role of protecting you and providing for you, what use is he for? Because this is why he's here. This is why God put him here. And so once you start to strip that away, he no longer has purpose, right? And so therefore, you know, he's now slithering from your bed to another man's bed, right? And so because he finds value, and so now they're finding value in each other because the woman done put them to the side. And so that's why we're seeing a lot of these feminine men that we see in the society, because they are lost. They don't know how to be a man because the woman has, you know, put them to the side. And so then now, therefore, they are now becoming women to other men. And it is disgusting and it is disgraceful. Again, women has played a big part of why we're seeing our men so sissified, why we're seeing our men so feminized, why we're seeing our men, you know, quick to bend over and, you know, have at it that way. But this is, we the women have to really be, we have to take responsibility for that. It's not just the men. We push them away and now they find comfort in other men. And again, I know that the society is building it that way, but we have to, as women, have to take a responsibility in saying that we threw them away. We were their purpose and now they have no purpose, but they are humans who need affection and so on. And they're going to go and find it elsewhere, you know, and what we're talking about is they're finding that in other men's beds. That's terrible.
No, but you're telling it though. You're telling it. You're telling it. That's right. You're telling it. Wait a second. Why are you telling it? And that's a highlight moment. I know folks are going to be watching this part. Girl, you better get to this part of the video when she's telling it. Remember that conversation we had the other day? Boom. Subscribe to the Conservative Poet. Make sure you go there and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon to get every video. Not personalized, not occasional, but every single video so you can catch every single utterance out of this beautiful, brilliant sister's mouth from her mind.
Yeah.
Serious.
Well, yeah.
And you're not afraid to say it. It's like the old Millie Jackson song I remember back from the 70s. I just had to say it. Right?
Well,
wow.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
No,
I mean,
it's an honor. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm a man. I'm supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to support you if you're right in the head and in your heart. And we're going to do so much together too. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we on fire.
Yeah.
a little while to build this house and get everything straight, but we here, undefeated, knocked down a little bit in the fight, but that makes the victory even sweeter when you get back up on your feet.
Yeah.
That's right. And you've been through a whole lot. Yeah. And it's made you, let me tell you something. It's made a diamond out of you. You're already that, but it polished it off and made it more. And so you'll never step down or back away. Just keep on going. And I know, like myself, you had to messing around with your channel and everything like that. So this is why we have to keep on supporting you. And I got some more questions in my head. And like I said, you're gonna end this show, not me. I'll sit up here for the next 8 hours to pick your brain. So don't be scared. I'm known to do that. But I mean, I know that you
how about 5 more minutes and you can ask me one more and then
wow. Okay.
Wrap it up.
Okay. I'll let you roll with this one. I'll ask you again. I got all these lights on me, so I'm sweating. I look like Uncle Fester off the Addams Family with my big head. All I need is a light bulb. But, yeah, I see, right? But okay. The Black community and America overall, all races, cultures and creeds and ideologies and origins and experiences and aspirations and goals and dreams and all that makes it the melting pot. You can answer in whatever order you want. The whole country of America or the Black community, both. Where do we go from here? How do we heal up? And what's the solution, which you can't say one thing is going to heal everything, but what direction do we need to go into? Answer me that. Where do we start? We can't say, well, every single step of the 1,000-mile journey we know, but we have that first step that's in front of us. Where do we start to heal and get ourselves better? Some people will say, well, if you want to say bring it back again, we didn't have it any good back then. Listen, we understand that, but how do we bring it all together? What would you prescribe to us?
Well, I'll tell you this. So this week, this month is Black History Month. And I don't really celebrate Black History Month because I believe in American history. Yes, we are Black people, but we are Americans. And so one of the things that happened this week for me is I went to an event for Black History Month. And this was a room full of Democrats. And I was probably 2 people, myself and Issa White, went to this event. He sent it to me and I said, all right, I'll go. And so we were probably the only 2 conservatives in the room. And here they are making this event. And all it is really, they hold on to this racism thing like America. We know that there are people who are racist, obviously. We know that you will never be able to rid people of racism. It's true. But for you to constantly, everything is about race. Everything is about slavery. Everything. These people will never let this thing go. And I feel like if we are to move as a society, we need to let some of these things go. We cannot move forward if we're not putting some of these things to bed. Like, it's been forever. Yes, our ancestors suffered. I understand these things. But at some point, we've got to move on. And that is where I stand. At some point, we've got to say, yes, America has her sins. Yes, things has happened, but we are Americans. We can't continue to divide with these things because of the color of our skin. Let us just move forward as Americans, because again, at the end of the day, America has paid for her sins, I believe. And if we say, yes, America, you've done that, and let's move on, you know what? Opportunities will flow. People aren't going to be expecting for people to give. Every time you hear it, every time something happens, oh, it's because I'm a Black woman. Oh, it's because of my skin color. Oh, it's because of racism. Oh, you racist. Oh, it's a white supremacist. And it's sickening to me because I don't believe it is. And if we don't let go of these things, we will never heal and move forward as a people, as a country, as a community. We have to embrace American exceptionalism and put everything else to the side. That's my thoughts.
Great answer. Great answer. I've always it's like many of us are stuck. We know what has happened. We know what could happen. But that's like saying the sun doesn't exist because of the clouds that are there on a rainy day.
Right.
It's the clouds, the clouds, the clouds. Oh, see, there's a cloud over there, but it's a sunny day over here. So my thing is that nothing's going to stop me from succeeding. Nothing's going to stop me from achieving. So I'm not just going to lay down and not fight. And the fight is really with me, to discipline myself, to manifest the greatness that's inside of me. There are people who would want to stop you from that. But if I sit there and go into a boxing match and I'm equipped to win this fight, and I'm going into the fight, oh, he's going to hit me. Oh, he's going to knock me down. He might knock me out. What if I'm worried about somebody else's offense, right? What about mine? Let him be scared of what I'm going to do. Not necessarily scared, meaning that I'm moving forward without any shackles, without any fear. I'm going to show you how bad I really am in the midst of all of that. Because I've known people who just, oh, it's hard out here. You're making it hard for yourself. And I know there's going to be bad. Look, nobody has been through, I'm just saying as a figure of speech. I've been through so much with racism in America. Oh, man. But did it stop me?
Right.
Did it age me? I'm 62 in April. It didn't age me. I'm not going to let it age me. I'm going to outlive all of them who have that in their heart and achieve without any holdback. Because many of us have greatness inside of us. And half the time we take the energy that we should be using to cultivate our greatness. And we, oh, look over there. Oh, look what he's going to do. Hey, he said this. He said that.
Yeah.
After a while, this is what certain people do. Do what you got to do and waste your time hating on me if you're like that.
Yeah.
I got something to do before I leave out of here. I have a mark to make on this world. You do too, and you're doing it so brilliant. And I thank you for that. And I'm going to put this up one more time so people can see the Conservative Poet on YouTube and beyond. Please leave your comments here, of course, but go over there and subscribe and leave some comments over there. And just like they say when they have the commercials, when you go to the store over there, tell them Lance Scurv sent you. Well, let them know. Let her know you came from over here, and now you're part of her family over there. And we all one big family, and we're going to continue to have these discussions. We're going to continue to push the limits and knock down the barriers, because that's what I'm all about. That's why I know, like I said in the beginning of the show, me and you are related somehow.
Somehow. Well, thank you, Lance, for having me. Really, really appreciate it. And friends, thank you for going to the Conservative Poet and subscribing. And you can also support me with my merch. You can find me at orlandopatriot.com, where I have patriotic merch, books, things like that, mugs, t-shirts. That is always a help. So thank you very much for that.
Yes, yes. I'm happy to have you here. And as much as you can, I want you to come back, because as I grow, the more I grow, because this is a new channel with me, I want you to grow with me.
Okay,
we can't
I'm
go
in.
wrong. All
I'm
right.
in. Okay.
Okay. So I'll see you, and
I
we'll
will
talk.
see you.
And let me know when you're ready to come back on again, even if it's 20 minutes. I'm just playing with you, right?
Okay. All right. I know you can't do 20 minutes, but that's okay.
All right. You have a good evening. Thank you for coming on. And I look forward to the next time. Thank you.
Bye.